Bless You. Short story written and read by Carlos Pandilla. It's amazing what you can remember about someone you've never met before, and for such a brief moment at that. Yet I hold the minutes of that rainy afternoon meeting in ugly detail, imperfect, painful detail. It was a Tuesday, October 5th. Time was right around 4:15, I say. The sky was a drab mix of muted blacks and grays. Rain was coming down in spotted bursts. The smell of wet concrete and grass was caught strong on the winds, strong enough to taste. I was leaving work for Mia's over on Archer Street. It's an old grease bar that liked to pass itself off as a classy blues club. I worked there part-time, doing anything that needed to be done. The owner, Miss Kennedy, was on that makeshift stage, singing blues about teardrops and dirty old lies. She was looking for attention that was at least 15 years past her prime. The front doors were kept open all the time, so as I walked out I could still hear her voice booming out into the city as I walked out into the cool rain. I didn't have an umbrella with me. It was supposed to be a bright, clear day. However, a bit of common truth in Louisiana. Mother Nature rarely gave a damn about the weatherman's forecast. Sometimes turned the other way just in spite. I pulled my arms close, cursed inward as the rain draped its cold against me. The wind picked up lightly, but just enough to add a stark chill across my cheeks. The blue-striped rag of a sweater I wore did nothing to help. I got a cold coming, I knew it then. Almost as if to prove my point, I sneezed harshly into the wind. That's when I saw her, that little innocent look staring right at me. I imagine she saw me as a man apart, two different worlds. There she was in a fine, lavish clothing, and me in my work-stained jeans and sweater. Even with that, she whispers out that sweet little phrase, "Bless you." I don't rightly hear her say it, but I see her lips move ever so slightly from right across the road. I catch it through the rain and wind. A young girl no more than 6, maybe 7 years old. She wore a sweet expression of youth and shyness. She was holding on tightly to a woman's coat, maybe her mother. Now, the little girl, she wore a fine blue raincoat, very dark suede appearance, a beautiful hat to go with it. She had an almost regal look about her. Her eyes were shiny hazels, blossoms set into a canvas of pale white. Brilliant curls of dark hair draped over her brown shoulders. She seemed to stand out against the gray of the afternoon all on her own, almost as if she didn't belong. Working in the club, I'd get my share of slimeball filth who'd rather spit on you than say please or thank you, much less take time away from a cigar to say bless you. It was not a place to live up to Southern hospitality. So, to see such a sweet display of sincerity and kindness, well, it made me smile in a way I hadn't in a long while. It felt good, like rekindling the flame of humanity inside me. However, that should have been a warning to me right then and there. This wasn't right. It wasn't normal. At times, the world can make you feel like you're lost in deep black waters with all sorts of horrid creatures just waiting to take a savage bite out of you. And sometimes, just when you think that darkness is all that's left, a little beam of light cuts on through, shows you the way out. It may not last long, but it's there just long enough to give you a clear head and, if you're lucky, maybe even a clear heart. Even if it's for a brief minute, it can guide you back from becoming the aforementioned slimeball filth of the club. Her little bless you for that moment was just that for me. But you see, sometimes the darkness all around you, it can get hungry, devilishly hungry, and bite through anyways. I was soon to know that myself. She never took her eyes off me. Never. I saw the imposing frame of a man begin to shadow her. I looked up and saw he wore a small, black-brimmed hat, expensive-looking suit, which was covered by an even more expensive-looking coat, shiny buttons and lapels all over. The whole ensemble screamed of massive spending with no regrets. His face seemed to hide in the shadow. Must have been the way he tilted his head, the way the street was, the clouds. Had to have been that. But it was like my mind would just not make him out properly. Looking back at it now, I think I just didn't want to see what my mind had already shown me. I knew what was happening. I knew what was there. I just didn't want to be part of it. The man, he was saying something to the woman. I couldn't make out the words, but from the way he was moving his shoulders and hands, his overall stance, it was a vile spill of language, a verbal soup of hate and insults, rotten in every one. He seemed to enjoy what he was doing. I looked down at those wonderful eyes that were still locked onto me. It was almost like she didn't want to experience the argument going on just only inches away from her. Almost like that little girl was not even there. She smiled at me, whispered something else. I really tried to listen, but the wind and the rain took away her tiny words. I found myself focusing on her intently. I just wanted to know what she said. I tried to focus so deep, but she just kept smiling at me. And right then, something about it began to unnerve me deeply. The argument behind and above her was getting worse. Now the woman had become quite animated and was shouting back at the man. Her fists were punctuating the damning intent behind her words. Rain began to fall a bit harder about the scene, while clouds had gathered up, darkening the sky even more. It seemed as if they were watching and crying over the scene below. I looked back to the girl's face and saw the same purity I had seen before when I first walked out. Why then was this bothering me so much? I just couldn't grasp it. Not then. Yet there was something false and disconnected in it all. I knew it. I could not stop looking on. Yeah, maybe it's because that little girl reminded me of someone, or maybe I just one of those creepy people who stop to look at car accidents. Either way, my eyes were deadlocked onto the drama exploding all over that side of the street. That little girl, she was looking even deeper my way. It's hard to explain. It's as if she was peering right through the skin and bone of who I was. Something in her eyes had changed. Those eyes, Lord, oh Lord, can I still remember them? Brilliant little flickers of youth burning so deeply into me. Yet, youth may be the wrong word. It felt more like an ageless titan had grabbed a hold of me, squeezing me tight within her gaze. I got lost in that feeling for what seemed like ages, but then the noise cracked against the world, bringing me back. Thunder had boomed across the street. It was an angry sound. I watched as that fine little blue coat received a fine spray of crimson. I looked down and saw the red watery vines of red running freely through the cracks in the street, down the drain into the rats. My mind didn't want to accept what happened. It was just thunder, I said. It was raining after all. But those lies, they didn't last long. I knew better. Or rather, I knew much worse. I knew that sound. That hungry, prowling roar that comes from the dark, seated deep within a barrel. I looked up and caught the sinful silvering gleam of the revolver stinging my eyes as the shadowed man backed away. I could see his teeth through the dark, perfect and clean. I could see him. It was like it was shining through the void around him. It was a smile. The man had a smile, a bright and horrible smile. I turned my eyes to the young girl who still had hers set upon me. She was standing there, whispering, whispering so much. I couldn't hear any of it. I wanted so bad to call out. I wanted to hear what she was saying, understand the matter. But I couldn't move, couldn't talk. It felt as though I was gripped by chains of guilt and fear, maybe sorrow all combined. I had noticed it right away, but I was holding my breath. The woman was laying on her back, still and silent. I didn't even notice her fall. Her face was thankfully turned away from me. I don't think I could have bared another set of eyes. I looked back to the little girl who was still staring right at me, or through me. Why? Why had all this happened? Why had he been smiling? Why did I have to be here? It's strange, isn't it? All the really stupid, open-ended questions you ask yourself under stress, as if somehow, somewhere, an answer would dare grace your ignorant mind. Those were my last fleeting thoughts on that afternoon. I didn't see it, but like I said, I knew the sound of a hungry gunshot all too well, and that darkness had reached out to consume me as well. I crashed into the street with dead leaden impact. Cool rain pittered across my back, while the sound of the blues slowly crawling away in my ear were soft, shocked voices coming out from the club, all of it fading away. My last sights were of that sweet little child. She was still whispering something as she moved closer to me, and I mean close, her steps far too quick for such a small girl. She was next to me within the blink of an eye, standing right over me. I swear I could feel the pressure of her stare upon my mind, crushing my heart. And then she smiled. A horrible, unhuman smile. It's something hard to relate with. I think I remember saying it was far too many eyes. Yes, that sounds horribly correct. Then my world fell into a spiral of painful white, where I remained. Now, that was over 7 years ago, mister. I spent 3 months of that in a coma. It took me some time to fully recover after waking. I'm not sure I'm still there. They told me I was gifted with 2 very well-aimed bullets that afternoon. One right in the neck, the other straight above my left eye. I lost sight in that one for a while, but eventually I managed to get a moderately passable to fine vision there. I could never really trust it though. You see, the thing is that after some time I began to see a sort of haze in that eye, and after some time after that, I started to see a whole other thing. I could see fine when I closed it and left my right eye open, clear as could be with that one. But with the opposite, well, I wasn't right at all. It doesn't happen all the time, but when there's itch to the wound, it feels like the bullets are still there. And if I close both my eyes right at that point, I can feel that look. Her look. And if I close that good eye and look out with the damaged one, just barely, I can see her just behind the dark. She's standing there, bloody blue coat and all. She just stares and smiles. This has been short story reading titled Bless You, written and narrated by Carlos Pandia. Thank you for your time. Have a great one, folks.